Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. This series is just spewing out assorted thoughts about boatloads of entertainment media. Some ideas are serious, others not so much. There will be spoilers for the series currently featured, but generally only vague references to any other connected ones in a shared universe. Now, with all that out of the way, here we go. Psychics like Ness may in fact sleep clean their living spaces with telekinesis. Tracy keeps this cracked bat, both for sentimental purposes, and so she can practice other stuff guarding before applying at Escargot Express. The thing was most likely what her big bro hit his first home run with. That elegant restaurant the Minches are eating at is probably located rather far away in Forsyth. Porky developed such an annoying knock because it's one of the only ways to get his neglectful parents' attention. The sound of that meteorite spaceship time machine might be what scared King away. The horrors of eternal darkness Buzz mentioned sound very similar to a certain deep lake, which is pretty much right beside Geek's Earth lair. Perhaps the universal cosmic destroyer's endgame for this planet was making it all barren and ready for a recolonization from his people. There aren't any enemies on the way back with not a beetle basher, because that super powerful, terrifying extraterrestrial leader was dedicating all his mental and physical resources to sending time-traveling troops like that Starman Jr. wherever they are most effective. All non-organic enemies are apparently from other eras and sent in as last resort deals before a present-found base starts functioning because he can't afford running out of his period-located troops. After said facility goes quiet later on in the game, murder machine masses don't go back down because desperation kicks in and everything. Supernatural cameraman must have originally just shown up to snap a pic of the meteorite, but decided to just follow Ness around after overhearing that Chosen One story nearby and contacting his parents about contracting a glorious travel record photo album deal. Magic butterflies might be an unintended positive consequence of Geek's violently animal-empowering invasion tactic. That is, certain creatures possessed mutations which made them become helpful after that nonsense kicked in, instead of the opposite. Currently, kids can't borrow anything but maps from Onet's public library because of how long a certain neighboring town-located genius has been holding onto the book Overcoming Shyness. Stuff like trash burgers are fine to eat because mentally mighty marauders, such as 3 of the Chosen 4, utilize their brainy powers to sanitize food for themselves and or allies. They'd also use them to heal known bodily harm most of the time, so battles round up more than barely survive. HP might actually be their main amount of psychic power, which is available for necessary bodily toughening and journey continuing state maintaining, while PP on the other hand is merely the extra stamina possessed, which lets super ability activation occur. Thus, getting pecked in the eye by a relatively giant bird ain't really no big deal. Also, a somewhat altered version of this much needed subconscious ultra mind junk might be helping making everybody's carried food not spoiled at regular rates. Those swirly green sneak attacks might actually be representative of the heroes using their powers to temporarily undo that crazy otherworldly psychic's influence and or more natural bad mood malarkey. Conversely, red danger circle blah occurs in moments where every Chosen One's too distracted to use their brains effectively for a brief instant. The people calling this young hospitalized lass during middle night times might be recruiters for Escargot Express. Tracy must simply be so good of an employee that they want to hire everyone in her age group. Frankenstein Mark II actually is an almost unstoppable weapon, as that blonde gentleman described, but not in a literal raw power-having sort of way. Rather, the thing's true impressiveness stems from being immune to Geek's control. Must have something to do with being steam-powered. Perhaps traditional electrical devices are only an option for psychic enslavement because of how similar their power sources are to biological neuron-firing whatever. Ness's best attack, being named after his favorite thing, is because focusing on such stuff is what gets him psyched up enough to go all out. Battle background blurs may in fact be barriers brought forth by souped-up, mostly benevolent psychic beings, so the surrounding area doesn't get damaged while unnaturally strong fighting time goes on. Particularly powerful entities can make more or less unique ones, and in the most extreme cases, may become such things themselves. Earlier adventurers must have only been strong enough to generate transparent area shields that appear as black voids from their perspectives. In both cases, stuff not going directly over the enemy is because of how much focus gets put into no overcoming. As opposed to Maria, who unintentionally charged up road-trip encountered landmarks with mind-manifested musical malarkey while reflexively using great psychic powers at death's door. Ness might have created certain sanctuaries with his remarkable talents right when life was first starting for him. That is, as Mom and Pop surrounded their atypically mentally gifted bundle of joy, imagining aloud all the wonderful places he'd wind up in the world, made his beefy baby brain instill certain description-matching locations with incredible energy his body couldn't quite handle yet, so a vessel self-destruction situation or something doesn't occur. Looks like loving parents play a huge part in the strongest of psychics literally keeping themselves together. Anyway, all enemies start running away after a super space flaming because they can all sense that crazy power our hero just absorbed but is yet to fully realize. The Onet Bakery not having donuts available may be because the city's police force buys them all up regularly. Captain Strong's submission hold is so powerful because it involves him using handcuffs on the opponent. The healer purchases those head shrooms because they are used for his medical magic. On a possibly related note, this fellow in the hotel lobby might have a spare $50 because he just got cured of said affliction. His goofy behavior certainly comes off like somebody who just came down from a supernatural high. Appropriately enough, this ad for the Chaos Theater can only be seen if someone's wandering behavior is, shall we say, not orderly. Everdread and his oddly charitable criminal connections might have been the one who cleared up those Onet Mayor beating sharks rumors, or Ness. The healing psionics must work by pulling out contaminants and other unpleasant body foreign junk, which results in a nigh instantaneous return to physiological normalcy. The better ones require greater psychic point usage because of how much more concentration complex problems like diamond conversion take to fix. These odd iron statues may have been formed by geeks psychically mining and structuring bits of said element found in the Earth's crust. Apple Kids eraser machines must work by disassembling them with very precise and powerful magnets to return said material back to whence it came. Different devices are required for each shade because of varying density and purity, or something. The villainous reason for everything getting painted blue by those happiest might be to give a certain alien army an absurd supply of full violent madness control-ready meat bags. There are mostly beginning area adversaries surrounding Paula's prison because she used a little bit of that pretty deadly side to attack any encountered aggressive non-human enemies on the way there, and those more advanced troops, like certain very shaded clothing garb folks, wound up scared of her. Teddy bears work as damage-devouring distractions because those totally controlled beings can't distinguish them from an actual animal ally. Mondo Mole's susceptibility to paralysis most likely stems from the fact that a giant mutant, which is only adapted for traveling around underground, doesn't do so well with typical movement spaces. These extra excited level-ups may be caused by the kids growing even more powerful at points in which they are feeling particularly good about their journey success chances. Tunnel ghosts are so off-put by the Runaway 5 tour bus's noise because, being that they are mostly incorporeal, making scary sounds is what gives them the most of their unlife joy. Drowning them out like that simply ruins their day to an unbearable degree. The insignificant item is so unimportant that Ness never cares to ask anybody what it actually is. This rumor that Geek is female may stem from lingering thoughts of the word mother and those he controls, which resulted from his undying Maria fondness. A creature that solely possesses zombies was constructed because it's easier for such things to head for fresh corpse vessel places when stuff starts falling apart too much than them simply being puppeteered directly. The horror creature ambush lady might be working for Belch and his boss because they promised her a career bigger than Venus's buddy. Maxwell must have bent this locker master key during the experiments where he was developing that machine which compensates for bad ones. Paula's psychic call for help is able to assist Jeff in battle barrier gifting ways. Cassie showing up just now isn't exactly a coincidence, but it's not entirely on purpose either. The jolly old thing must have also heard a certain mental SOS on its way to Jeff. The Mad Duck and other enemies spinning something around drain PP because it's done in such a way that psychics can't help but use much power trying to stop it on reflex. Being able to see into others' brains but not knowing when something's going to cease moving has got to be a rather unpleasant feeling. Dr. Andonuts got rid of his bed and added that nifty label right after he confirmed his instant revitalizing device really does offer the exact same refresh as a good night's sleep. Boogie Tent may have accidentally been given a weakness to fire while it was being constructed because of overwhelming thoughts that one guy had about burning the center Foldy building down. No matter how powerful Geek is, the thoughts of the people he's trying to mess with have got to bleed into him sometimes at least. Ness and Co. go ta-da when opening these caskets because thinking about magic shows while doing so is the only thing that can make it feel less gross and creepy. 3 minutes of silence is actually the optimum password for this mostly zombie-employing facility. Anything a moaning weak voice would try and say would almost definitely be drowned out by the falls. So, once some motion sensors or whatever detected crap while a mic heard nothing, security would know those approaching were actually the okay to be around undead individuals. Belch asked for a decaying army because he wanted troops that smell worse than him. Mr. Saturn's coffee is quite thought-provoking because their bizarre physiology means they can't brew it in a way that stimulates humans normally. He's willing to give out gold just for a simple snack because him and his company have already been paid substantially for the dig, but couldn't pack enough different food options on account of spoiling related what have you. Everdread must have stashed this $1,000 on his way to Forsyth. This particular hospital hosts hall healer warnings because it's already been sued for malpractice before. Considering this place is located in a big city currently run by somebody who's especially corrupt, it's pretty likely there are plenty of lawsuit-happy folks around. The Runaway Five's tendency to get roped into horrible contracts is because their ears are always ringing during negotiations on account of said talks consistently taking place right after their trademark very loud bus trips end. The 5 Guardian Diggers must have all fought each other in succession tournament style on several occasions before. These competitions would generally end with each combatant winning the first 2 battles with recently thought of clever strategies and losing the rest once their similarly minded comrades figure out a way to counter said new tactics. Plus, there'd be exhaustion in later battles. This situation is why they all believe themselves to be third best while apparently possessing identical physical prowess. Miss Malicious Manager rather enjoys that diamond, a mere superheated and pressurized chunk of carbon that's only valuable because of shady business junk. It's kinda like the tangible manifestation of her contract scheme. Neat. The department store was closed because Porky and everybody needed time to remodel it with a secret path this spook took while kidnapping Paula. Mani makes illusions that are meant to counter the pleasant Maria memories in Geek's Magickin. He could very well be a prototype of that his battle found Devil's Machine. One must have been sent back in time so Ness would wind up going crazy before getting strong enough for final showdown madness. Talorama wasn't able to finish his meditation until Moonside vanished because the pseudo-dimension's energy really screwed with him. Captain Coolcap won't teach his similarly powered gal pal how to teleport because he doesn't want to make her feel homesick like him. Little Miss Preschool Liver won't ask who about it later because she only wants to learn from her crush. These bathrooms near Monotoli's office always wind up full because they're the only not underground facilities available to this alien army's organic officers. The sudden gut spill is a placebo, not steroids. The Runaway Five are in fact quite physically strong. This is because they always carry their own equipment, even when heading up loads of floors via stairways, since the aforementioned instruments wouldn't fit on those tiny elevators, plus maximum weight capacity bullcrap. Jeff became capable of repairing the Skyrunner rather easily after witnessing all those relatively fancy security robots in that last raided building and getting inspired. The leftover materials are, of course, stale stuff that doesn't get along well with this young fellow's super metabolism. There's no actual magic. Ness merely has an out-of-body experience because that recently learned teleport skill is messing with the natural need to run to the nearest bathroom really fast. That bashing boy beast can recall his dad's phone number and push it through to Pooh because he feels like a certain passing out from exhaustion scenario said parent often warns him about is on the horizon. Prince People Pleaser breaking the indoor warping rule is because his temporary tethering to Ness prevents him from crashing into furniture or whatever by making this particle bending what's-it extra physics defying. Stalky Museum Guy can clearly see the playground of doom because those masses of light are just how battle barriers appear from not currently physical contact capable places. PK Thunder has such low accuracy because it's hard for psychics to overcome lightning's natural tendency to hit whatever conductor's closest on the way down from other atmosphere places. These disastrous dudes are vulnerable to PK Flash because emitted light is the one aspect of electricity they can't control, and this pisses them off an intolerable amount. The journey is so quick-paced from summers onward, what with spending very little time in each area compared to what was probably a week or so in universe, tackling everything prior, for a few reasons. 1. For summer specifically, the fact that it's a resort town and thus doesn't have too many permanent residents of import who aren't rich, hiring-own help-capable folks means Ness's party ain't needed for assistance jump. 2. The vastly different from Eagle Land, not so Europe-resembling places such as Scaraba and Dala means culture clashes prevent most of these heroes from knowing how to help properly. Local involving side quest type things. 3. Chasing Porky makes central protagonist guy super determined to do main stuff. Brick Road considers this super plush bear a worthy reward because he hopes normal powerless tourist kids visit Dungeon Man. There's a hospital staff located here despite the instant revitalizing device's presence, not just since it might break down before guests ever reach it, but also because Mr. Immobile Proprietor can't use that thing himself anymore. Ness's teleportation explanation for the monkey just isn't good enough for a human to grasp. Smaller simians simply are naturals in such psychic skills because such things are kind of similar to the swinging movements they are built for. Thus, the teaching session is so poor, Paula can't figure it out, but that other non-human animal aces everything. The Hawkeye must have been designed by those ancient pyramid-making individuals to be a sort of supernatural smoke signal that indicated when their invader enemies return. Ensuring said device worked permanently would be especially important to all of this. This helicopter's engine wasn't taken for Porky Spider-Man. Instead, it was merely used to make a simple drilling device so he could reach his new boss and get the aforementioned advanced alien tech. He never really got to the guy with it though. He mostly used it to travel around evading Ness until he had a chance to steal an even better vehicle. Belchbarf could reform in his factory because of his minions piecing him back together. He doesn't accomplish the same here because nearby wildlife eats his remains. The spectacularly inaccurate Casey bat sucks because it wasn't meant to actually be wielded as a weapon. Rather, it was cruelly fashioned as a kind of hatred-fueling motivation device by Captain Vomit to remind himself how much his sports-loving nemesis must pay. Orange obviously ain't actually shy. What he's truly trying to overcome is the fear of people realizing he's not really a master inventor. Those kooky Earth annihilators established that base near Dr. Andonet's lab because there's worry he'll develop some sort of device which is capable of taking problem people directly to their leader. There must be multiple Swords of Kings. This name is merely referencing the fact that these blades are all so high quality they can cut down any opponent that would threaten such a ruler, which includes absurdly advanced alien androids. All the Starman Supers were tasked with collecting them in order to make sure their legions get spared the humiliation of being bisected by not-super brain-equipped evil. The base shuts down once its deluxe commander is taken care of because Geek and his troops don't want a repeat of certain stolen vital whatnot-filled incidents. Dr. Deliciousness decides to develop the phase distorter in Saturn Valley instead of at his nearby lab because working right beside that place where he just got kidnapped is going to be pretty stressful for a while. It's not just reading this book that allows these Tenda to overcome their shyness, but rather the grand gesture of foreigners going to such incredible lengths helping them that brings forth realizations revolving around how opening up for outsiders ain't so bad an idea. Ness and co wouldn't either smash the rock with their powers or merely move it by telekinesis or something because their psionic abilities are giving them vibes that making this one fellow feel worthless is a really bad idea. There was supposed to be an antenna installed that rendered these spheres controllable, but alas, a manufacturing error resulted in them all being various degrees of broken. Very rarely, after harsh battles finish, there are enough working parts left over to get turned into another equally impressive gadget. These talking rocks in the hall's word wall could very well just be stuff covered with psychically powered fungi or something. This lost underworld's lack of sun might not be an issue because that flashy moss which covers Luminette Hall might encompass its entire ceiling. The magic fry pan must be what these tend to use to cook dinosaurs. Sometimes they drop them near their intended prey, to then take the things out of curiosity. This particular chatty stone may have been where Buzz's Apple of Enlightenment originally heard about the fabled prophecy. The hypothetical mentally empowered microorganisms covering it must be all foresight capable too. Porky may have managed to hijack the phase distorter by sneaking into Saturn Valley through Belfarch's old lair after digging there. Star pendants must have been part of some ammo cache meant for Geek's elite troops. Some regular psychic psychos stole them and used their everything resistance to train against extra powerful beings until they became major. Most of the time, these workouts destroyed said gear along the way. The Soundstone looks like a miniature planet. Maybe it's generated by raw psychic energy from such celestial bodies themselves, like a tiny piece of potential sacred power places. Perhaps picking one up on her journeys would allow Maria to unintentionally create a magicant as she perished. This old fellow seems to be quite familiar with the concept of mind-created dimensions. Seems like he's been to more than one, which could be a not-so-monumental task for him since he can teleport quite easily after all. He could very well be an Enlightenment Reach version of that man no one remembers originally found in Queen Mary's personal universe. Magic pudding might have been generated by Ness's great desire to have more desserts like that crazy cake he loved eating in summers. It's said later that this guy knows deep in the reaches of his mind where he needs to go after realizing true power stuff. A valley-situated planet Saturn is literally in the back of this place. The flying men not regenerating represents how one can never truly lose their courage, even if they no longer have access to whatever superfluous thing initially made them aware of it, like an admired fictional character or whatever. These things located throughout the pathway to that Sea of Eden are seemingly based on randomness Ness pondered while traveling. like how powerful equipment everybody might stumble upon, and what it'd be like to use his comrade's skills and or tools. At least one small part of him was still wondering where a certain favorite hat went, and if he'd happened to stumble upon it somehow while globetrotting. Punch Proficient Pajama Pal thinks about Kraken a lot because he loves Godzilla films. A teleport can only be done at Firespring or wherever else this one time because of residual power left over from Ness's world creation and unzipping shenanigans. Which brings to mind something that should have been mentioned like 6 ideas ago. Chosen Boy's Magicate may have actually been located atop his Soundstone. The avatar used while traveling it may have just been a him-shaped brain cell. Mom doesn't offer her little hard work a chance to sleep because not only is there worry about him being defenseless during peak invasion time, but she also wouldn't know when night or day is anymore with his strange psychic darkness veil enveloping their beloved town. The Goddess brand ribbon may have unintentionally been created by Geek as a tribute to Maria. They are so high quality a product that they sometimes even survive harsh battles while improperly equipped by Earth accessory ignorant space androids. On that note, they are gifted to the ghostly variant of such things because the commanders barely wear bits, know she's dead, and grasp how being an earthbound spirit makes the situation a certain kinda appropriate. Dr. Andonas knowing all about Zexonite despite never having seen it is because he probably read up on the stuff's uses and potential from a paper written by some other genius scientist, like Lloyd or his dad perhaps. Psychic Space Sensei may have actually originally trained Pooh here with regard to using PK Starstorm, hence how he can learn Omega so easily right now. Maybe it has something to do with throwing meteors down in a place one can ever see them. One of those learn by starting at the greatest challenge level sort of deals. This Horn of Life in the Face Distorter 1 wreckage was most likely carried by that abducted Mr. Saturn. These tentacle horn deal's presence seems to indicate this place is connected to some kind of magic. Perhaps Geek himself turned into his own universe on account of unbelievably immense power. And part of that process involved being in existence during every moment of time simultaneously. Everyone must go back as far as possible to stop him because it's the only way to undo the damage he's done to literally everywhere. The legendary bat may be manifested after reality's enemies started imagining how that prophesized boy was gonna beat him down. The bionic Kraken must have been forged by Geek right as Ness's magickin was fading because finding on the boy's mind out of reflex upon sensing overwhelming new power's arrival made him realize how annoyed said fellow god fighting those direct original creature copies in mythically labeled maritime locale. Dude's subconsciousness countered this by generating an amazing new weapon which would make him unstoppable. The Devil's Machine could very well be constructed entirely around Sir Cosmos Eradicator's Sea of Eden, which also happens to totally be his whole body at this point. Speaking of sinister, science-shape-shifting stuff, that currently in use demonic doodad may have actually been constructed by enemies of Geek. It might work by forcing the personality traits of folks like Ninten, Ness, and Maria onto him, so his magickin becomes more contained. Hence the friendly fate its apparent core displays. Not purchased earlier versions of this device would have been used by these guys as revenge on the forces of good. Mr. Formerly Comprehensible Body's previous impossible to grasp assault were simple attacks, which just happened to be so overwhelmingly powerful that Ninten and his friends couldn't decipher their shapes. These ones, which seem to produce each effect possible in this series version of reality, may instead be Geek causing literally every conceivable thing on reflex during his all-of-time reaching instantaneous universe creation. The Chosen Four are always being assaulted by random things as a result of their relatively weaker minds, failing to keep up with what's going on and reflexively approximating how they'll eventually die for merely being near this tragic abomination. The effectiveness of Paula's pleas might simply go beyond an omnipotent being granting them power from all those met on their journey, and eventually everyone in existence. What might be happening in addition is a certain Sir Adopted Alien getting reminded of Maria again and experiencing more trauma because she was also a religious person with blonde hair and pink preferences. This prayer getting absorbed by the darkness isn't a true failure. It's merely the message sending taking longer because multiple dimensional barriers must be crossed to reach that final target. These robot shells start deactivating upon Geek's demise because the enemy detection function harnessing phase distorter which they emerge from and are connected to can no longer sense his presence. The Chosen Four, returning to their bodies safely, may be what good remains in Maria's poor son, sending them back as a thank you for putting him out of his misery. Specifically, this display might actually be Teleport's Omega 4, the ability to send anyone instantaneously across both space and time. Apple Kid's mousepad took so long reaching Saturn Valley because his only available travel method was bartering with Bubble Monkey and getting a testy ride across the ocean. This would take rather long because this particular plesiosaur is a new one that Mr. Jungle Lover had to befriend, just like the lake confined example. Most bikes don't work in the Lost Underworld because said place's ground is too uneven for comfortable vehicle riding on account of ancient never-got-sun-drenched soil crap. The bicycle shop Punk Sure must always be sold out because their products are so high quality that they even function flawlessly in swamps. It wasn't water deepness that damaged everybody earlier, but rather the microorganisms living here that attacked because of Geek's influence. Lazy Cowpoke Stop and Go didn't paint over the Stowe Club sign after buying it out because they really enjoyed living up to that adjective in their name. Skyrunner debris was never visible after crashing in Summers because the sunlight reflecting off all those little silver-colored pieces made looking for it problematic. Ness's dad must be employed in that great economic superpower place so many late-game merchants talk about. He was working endless overtime throughout the game to gain enough money to pay a photographer to chronicle his son's world-saving journey. There might also be something about paying back the Mitches going on, too. Post-production Picky prefers Porky Pattern Bounty because using such an annoying knock is the best way to remember his brother since the guy's gone missing. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.